Yeah, you go ahead.
Call the meeting to order. Everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This time we'll go ahead and entertain a motion to approve the agenda pending any changes.
Okay, that is a little bit complicated, but it's all good. On the agenda is complete. I want to make sure that everyone knows that on the consent agenda, the part down there where it talks about the approve the facility and summer school handbooks. The summer school handbooks was on there. The facility piece was not put on there till this morning, which is less than 24 hours, and it wasn't posted, which I did give the approval to do that, but it wasn't posted upstairs. But I just want to make sure everybody know that item F did have the addition of the approved the facility and summer school handbooks, but that should say, if I'm correct, Dr. Roos, it's a draft.
It is. It says it in the notes section.
It says in the notes, but not on the agenda topic, correct?
No, it doesn't. It says it on the document though too.
So is that, so anyway, the agenda piece there, just make sure that the agenda consent agenda out in there is correct. That's a draft agenda of the facility, but it's not a draft agenda of the summer school handbooks, correct?
Correct.
And that the only difference is if the facility piece was not posted last night, it was posted this morning, and that's just which is not a problem. But as long as you all are okay with that, and the facility piece is a draft, that's not really a big deal. But I just wanted to make sure I was clear with that component. That's other than that, the agenda is good.
Okay. Somebody like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Second by. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, approving the election results from the April 5th, 2022 election.
Okay, this is, as we said, we had a recent election. We had a two 3-year terms that were up, and then we also had an unexpired 1-year term. We had, I think there were 6 candidates running for the two seats, and then 1 individual that did not appear on the ballot that was running for the 1-year expired term. You can click there and you can see that the election results were certified by the county clerk a few days after the election, with in the order of finish for the top vote getters, with Richard Fadler, who was an incumbent, was the top vote getter, and the second top vote getter with 802 votes was Joshua Martin. So those 2 individuals, would be under the election electing 2 would be the ones that would take that position once you all approve those results. But you all have to approve them before we can take and administer them the oath of office. Also, as I said earlier, not appearing on the ballot, we had a 1-year unexpired term, and there is only 1 individual that made the registration for the ballot, and because that individual was the only individual, they did not actually appear to voters on the ballot. They automatically became that 1-year term, which was Marcus Shepard. So once you approve these results, the 2, Richard Fadler, Josh Martin, and then outside of that, will also then Marcus Shepard will also become a 3rd person to take the unexpired term. That you are approving the results of the election, which included the 2 individuals that were the top vote getters out of the 6.
Somebody like to make a motion to accept the election results? Approve them?
I will make a motion to approve the election results.
Mr. Holt,
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Beresowski. We have to poll the board, or is that just a?
You would need to do a,
Poll the board?
yes.
Okay.
Mr. Festus.
I abstain.
Yes.
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 Okay, the motion passes. This time we'll go into a board reorganization per policy BCA RSMO 162.301, sign idea for the 2021-2022 Board of Education.
Okay, and at this time, we will have, I'll kind of take over the meeting temporarily. We have our Board of Education Secretary, Mrs. Lynn Stanley, over here in the pink, who will administer the oath of office to our top vote getters that were just recently certified at the election, in addition to the individual that automatically was placed into the position because they had no challengers, Marcus Shepard. So if at this time, Mr. Richard Fadler, Mr. Josh Martin, as well as Mr. Marcus Shepard would come forward, Mrs. Stanley will administer the oath of office to you all. Then after the completion of that oath of office, each of you will then take your seat at the Board of Education table. So Mrs. Stanley, go ahead.
I do solemnly affirm
I do solemnly affirm
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Missouri,
and the Constitution of the State of Missouri,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
faithfully and impartially discharge
faithfully and impartially discharge
the duties of a member of the school board
the duties of a member of the school board
of the Festus R6 School District,
of the Festus R6 School District,
State of Missouri, according to law.
State of Missouri, according to law.
Help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, guys.
Welcome, gentlemen. Welcome back. Welcome back, Marcus.
Yeah, welcome. Welcome, Josh.
Okay, so at this point in time, I will temporarily take over the meeting until we, as required by statute, the board has to reorganize on an annual basis to officially designate their officers as well as directors. And of course, the first position for that is the election of the president of the Board of Education. And so at this time, I will entertain from anyone, and you can, an individual board member can nominate themselves. But if we have anyone that would like to nominate one of the elected board members to serve as president, at this point in time, Mrs. Stanley will note that nomination, and we'll see if there's any others, and then we will take a vote to determine that. So at this point in time, do we have any nominations for the office of President of the R6 Board of Education?
I would like to nominate Doug Wendell.
I'll second that.
So we have a nomination from Director Hvac of Doug Wendell, and that has been seconded by Director Abrams. Any other discussion? Any other nominations? Okay, at this point, Mrs. Stanley, if you would like to take the vote of the board, and again, you can vote for yourself. So again, we will again go around, and Mrs. Stanley, you can hold the board.
Mr. Martin?
Yes. For Doug Wendell.
Okay. Mr. Fadler?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Wendell?
I suppose.
Mr. Abrams?
Yes. Yes.
Ms. Beresowski?
How'd that vote come out, Mrs. Stanley?
7 yes votes.
Okay, so, Director Wendell, you are the new board president.
Thank
Congratulations.
you, everybody, for your confidence.
Thank you.
So we will move on, and I'll take one more roll before we turn it back over to the newly elected president. We will now have an election to determine who should be the Vice President of the Board of Education of Festus R6 School District. The Vice President serves whenever there are times where the President may not be able to attend the regular session or a special session. The Vice President will serve in their absence. So at this time, do we have anyone that would like to put forth the name of a director to serve as the Vice President of the R6 Board of Education?
I will nominate Mike Wolf for the Vice President.
Okay, we have a nomination from Director Fadler for Director Mike Woke.
Second.
Who's second? And we have a second by Director Shepherd. Any other discussion or nominations? Hearing none, we will then ask Secretary Mrs. Stanley to please poll the board to see who will our Vice President be.
Mr. Martin?
It's a yes for Mike Wolf.
Mr. Fadler?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Sure.
Mr. Wendell?
Yes.
Mr. Abrams?
Yes.
Mr. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Garzowski?
Yes.
Okay,
7 yes votes.
okay. So Director Wolf, you are the Vice President. Congratulations. Our next officer, which I'll turn this, at this point in time, I'll turn the meeting back over to President Wendell. But the next meeting, he will be asking if there are any individuals that would like, again, to be appointed as the district treasurer. The treasurer basically is a role that's as involved as they want it to be. Their name does appear on any approved invoice that's paid from district funds to a vendor or to an individual. Their name appears on that along with the secretary of the board and that. So anytime, at this point in time, do we have any, Captain Wendell, if you want to entertain anyone to submit nominations for the position of treasurer, that would be your duty.
Would anybody like to nominate somebody to be the treasurer of the board?
I would like to nominate Rich Fadler.
I'll second that.
We have a nomination for Rich Fadler and a second from Mr. Abrams. Does we have any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, Ms. Stanley, would you poll the board?
Mr. Martin?
Yes for Rich Fadler.
Mr. Fadler?
Now, I have a question. Since this is an appointment, do I have to abstain? It's
You
not.
do not have to abstain, no.
Okay,
But you can, but you do not have to.
okay, just want to make sure. Then, yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Wendell?
Yes.
Mr. Abrams?
Yes.
Mr. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Garzowski? 7 yes votes.
Next thing up, we will discuss and appoint a secretary to the board.
Okay, and the secretary of the Board of Education does not have to be an elected member. It can be someone that is not an elected member, such as Mrs. Stanley who works full-time for the school district and at this office, has been in this position for the last couple years. That is very plausible, very acceptable. You can have an individual that's a board elected member be the secretary that would take the minutes in that. One reason that most districts tend to appoint someone that is not a Board of Education, because the board secretary also serves as the custodian of records. And while it's not often, if there are times where an individual will request minutes from a previous meeting or an executive session, or they will request information from the district that's under the freedom of information request, and that individual, typically the board secretary, is the one that handles gathering that information, whether it's a policy or appropriate information to submit to whoever is requesting that in a timely fashion. And it is much simpler when that individual is on site, every day, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. But again, that's up to you. But again, we would, President Wendell would like to request if there's have any nominations at this point for a Board of Education Secretary. And Mrs. Stanley, you have been the board secretary the last couple of years. Are you willing to continue in that role if they would nominate you, or is that something you would rather not do?
No, I will do it.
I nominate Lynn Stanley as Secretary of the Board.
I'll second.
Have a nomination and a second. Anybody like to nominate anybody else? Does anybody want to nominate themselves to take notes? Kind of what I thought. Ms. Stanley, would you poll the board, please?
Mr. Martin?
Yes for you.
Mr. Fadler?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Wendell?
Yes.
Mr. Abrams?
Yes.
Mr. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Burzak?
See what happens when you do such a good job, Ms. Stanley? Okay, next up on the agenda, we'll go ahead and do our good news recognitions and announcements.
I'm Emma Harris, and I, along with 32 other high school students, have been inducted into the National Honor Society. The ceremony was held in the Performing Arts Center. The National Honor Society recognizes students who are committed to the 4 values of the organization: scholarship, leadership, service, and character. This week, 100 middle school students were inducted into the National Junior Honor Society, which recognizes the 4 values in middle school students. Now here is the rest of this month's good news, recognitions, and announcements. Captain Cremisha Mendoza of the U.S. Capitol Police was on campus this week to be formally inducted into the Festus R6 Hall of Fame. Captain Mendoza, a 1998 graduate of Festus High School, participated in interviews with KJFF Radio and the Leader newspaper. She also participated in a live stream conversation where she talked about her career. Captain Mendoza spoke to high school students about her path from Festus High School to the U.S. Capitol Police Department and her advice to students. She also had the chance to catch up with some former teachers and coaches who are still at the high school. In the afternoon, Captain Mendoza was recognized on the track at the start of the Tigertown track meet. Afterwards, she met with family and friends during a special reception.
Hi, I'm Peyton Willis, and I'm Festus High School's April Student of the Month. My parents are Jamie and Joe Willis. I was extremely honored, especially with all my close friends that have done it before me, and I followed their path, and so I'm extremely honored and blessed for this opportunity. Cadet tutor with my first graders. I'm involved in cross country, track, National Honor Society, Student Council, theater, and Student Body Public Relations Director. I plan to attend the George Washington University to major in public health.
The Performing Arts Center is getting a lot of use during its first semester open. In just the past few weeks, high school, middle school, and first and second grade students held their annual spring concerts. All were very well attended. The high school concert featured professional musicians and singers who sang alongside the high school students for a special performance of the Schubert's Mass in G. Funds for the professionals were secured through a grant. During the second grade concert, Dr. Roos and Dr. Luttrell had some speaking roles, but they worked for free. The Intermediate School Art and Music Festival will be held on April 28th. Dozens of third grade students took part in a Play Unified soccer game on April 1st. Play Unified is a Special Olympics program that helps teach students how to work and play with students of all abilities. The game is put on by the High School Student Council. Student Council members and high school soccer athletes served as buddies, coaches, and referees. Play Unified Soccer is one element that helped the high school become the only school in Missouri to be named a Special Olympics Play Unified banner school. The elementary received a donation of 24 bicycles last month thanks to Expressmart and Living Life on Two Wheels. Expressmart has raised nearly $70,000 to provide bicycles to 16 area school districts. districts. Students will start off using the bike as balance bikes before they progress to have the pedals added. Elsa Muellersman is this year's winner of the 8th grade historical figure debate. Students competed in a bracket-style tournament advocating for different historical figures who had the greatest influence on American life today. Elsa advocated for John D. Rockefeller and convinced the judges that she was right. The top 3 finalists in the Optimist Club essay contest were all Festus High School students. Ava Beers placed first, Lily Nickman was second, and Lucas Warren was third. They will each compete at the district level for a chance to win a $2,500 scholarship. Festus High School students representing Key Club volunteered at the annual egg hunt on Saturday, sponsored by Kiwanis. The event was held at Sunset Park. FHS students helped set up and accompany nearly 50 small children as they hunted eggs at the event. The event was a success despite the cold temperatures Saturday morning. Key Club President Dustin Peters served as the Easter Bunny. Middle school nurse Miss Jessie Beard raised $4,445 for the Andy Hapsinger Foundation during a 12-hour race in Cape Girardeau last month. She ran 63.85 miles in 12 hours, finishing first among 52 runners who ran the 12-hour race. Part of the money she collected included $1,275 raised in a coin war at the middle school. Senior Colin Winehouse shot a hole-in-one at Crystal Highlands Golf Club during a match on April 5th. Congratulations, Colin. That's a look at this month's good news, recognitions, and announcements.
Once again, a lot of good things happening in the district. Glad to see that. Okay, moving on. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, noting the changes that we had earlier in the initial agenda.
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second
Second by Ms. Beresowski. All those in favor? Actually, no, we have a discussion first.
Right.
Take that back. Dr. Latrobe.
Yes, the policy updates are pretty basic. There's basically 3 main policy updates there that are all required due to state statute to be in compliance. And I'm not sure if we have all of the specifics worked out yet, but this is only the first reading. We will, as long as we have them approved and in place by June, we will be fine. They have to be in place by July 1. And the first and foremost one requires that every school district in the state of Missouri must, if requested up to at least 3 times per day, provide lactation support for any employee in a ventilated room, and it cannot be a restroom facility, and that has to be at each employee site. And we will definitely comply. I do not think that we have yet determined where the room or the location in each site will be. Dr. Bruce, have you?
We have not determined that.
it. It has to be in each building. Yeah, that's what I thought when I read it.
So, again, but hopefully we will have that next month, and you will have then May and June, but other than that, that was the main one on that. And then the other one is that there also states that statute now requires under the Fmla Act that up to 2 weeks leave per year, and it can be on an intermittent basis, be provided to an employee that is a victim of sexual or domestic abuse. And even if it is not the individual employee, if they have a family member that has been a victim of sexual or domestic abuse, they also qualify for that. Now, again, it is not necessarily paid leave. They would have to, in other words, we would have to allow them simply to use accrued leave for that. If they have accrued leave, we would deduct that just like we would with FMLA leave. In other words, so if they did not have accrued leave, they would still be given that time, it would be without pay, and we would have to still allow them to come back after that time. Okay, so I mean, it's really monetarily, it's really kind of cost neutral. However, again, it's still, I think it's still, again, the right thing that we need to do, because again, when the individuals are in that situation, and also the policy, if you go in there and read that, it also does define what a family member defines a family member.
So is that outside of FMLA altogether, or do they have to be approved for FMLA before that takes
They
effect?
have, the way that I've interpreted, and I'll ask Dr. Roos what her interpretations are, but my interpretation on that, and talking with Celinda, is that the individual, it basically runs concurrent, just like, it's basically an additional criterion that for an individual with under FMLA. Whereas an FMLA was for a health condition, medical condition that was under for themselves or an immediate family member. They're just now kind of adding to that. If a person is a victim, even though it may not be a true medical where you've got a diagnosis, if you have a police report that you suffered from a traumatic episode, or you would then it would fall under the same specification of that.
I understand that the same way, yes, the added piece that he's referring to.
And then the third one, which Dr. Roos can also explain a little bit more about, is, again, it basically just talks about revisions to state statute, that about what the district can and cannot do when it comes to student restraint. I don't know if Dr. Roos, if you have anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, we already have, punishment and restraint and all of that. That's already in our guidance that we offer training to our staff members for that. Particularly, we have crisis teams that a few individuals at each building who are trained in those areas. And so this just reiterates some of those things and goes a little bit deeper into making sure that we are not restraining students or isolating them and things like that. So.
And then what do you want to address also to them about how it impacts corporal punishment?
It's about almost to the end of the document, around page 3 of the corporal punishment. Again, we already have policies in place. It revised that to meet the specific House bill that would, I think it referenced 432. Again, things that we already have in place, but re-emphasizing those items that we need to train staff and make sure that we have in place for everyone.
But currently, our policy is that we do or do not allow corporal punishment. So, I mean, so in essence, under corporal punishment policy, there's no change because we don't allow it.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's, one thing that impacts is the student restraint, which we have already developed and mandated that. But again, this is just the first draft. I do encourage you to go back and read that. And if you have any questions or need clarification, feel free to reach out to me, and I will try to make sure that because we can modify it to fit what we feel is best for our needs, and then our MSBA and our Trimble will tell us if our modifications will still be in compliance with state statute. But I really feel good about all. There's really not anything in there that's really going to upset the apple cart too much. And then also on the consent agenda, and Dr. Roos may want to comment as well, we have, if you remember last month, we also had, we approved it last month, the Chromebooks from a vendor that, and we took the low bid. Well, since that time, we have found out that, again,
Under new
that.
business, yes, sir.
What?
That's under prior new
Oh, is
business.
it under prior new? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll come back to that then. But the other thing on the consent agenda then would be the fact simply that we have the Marco Technology copier bid. So again, Dr. Bruce, if you want to make any comments on that particular bid, or if you want me to go ahead and explain that.
Yes, please. Yes. Dr. Luttrell has included me in the meeting. I was able to meet the Marco just so I can begin to meet some of the vendors. He's been good about letting me sit in and listen and hear the history behind those. So if you wouldn't mind explaining it.
The Marco Technologies has been our approved copier vendor since 2010. They've provided very good service to us. I personally, not that you won't find someone, but I very personally have ever had very much interference ran from individuals that think our copier provider is not doing a good job in terms of the amount of downtime that we have for that. We have 32 copiers that are in our fleet, between copiers that we purchased as well as copiers that we've already paid for, that we kind of move around from major offices to later on in their life. We might move them to a lower office area where there's less volume to that. This agreement would keep Marco Technologies, because it is a professional service, it's not really a true bid, and it would basically keep Marco Technologies, and we would basically have essentially in our fleet, we would still have 32 copiers, but 22 of the 32 would be brand new copiers, and 10 others that are current in our fleet that are serving high volume areas would be moved to areas like transportation, the athletic director's office, counselor's office, the transportation department areas. Of that, we'll probably have one over at the Performing Arts Center area now. There's always a need for those. The existing lease that we have right now, that total amount, along with the lease of overall lease amount that you see, the $57.44, includes the cost to purchase the 22 new copiers, plus also we have even the existing copiers, we have an ongoing maintenance contract where anytime any of the copiers, new or existing, need toner, they need some technical assistance, they need some work, we pay a monthly support fee for that. Altogether, that 50 is that amount there, what we're paying now. With the new agreement, like I said, and that's actually incorrect, the new agreement that we would have for this would basically bring on the 22 copiers, include 4 more additional new copiers than we currently have. Okay, and we also purchased an additional copier for our business office at our business classroom at the high school this past year through an enhancement grant that gave us 75%. We hope that next year we can produce the athletic programs and rosters for a lot of our events, and our students are going to get involved in that. And so that machine will also come under this maintenance contract and be serviced from that. For if there's ever any encounters, we need toner or whatever for that. So at the end of the day, from our current existing lease that we have to our new lease that we would go into with an agreement with Marco would be an addition of, I've got right there, it's $680, an increase of $686 a month. But technically, when you get down to it, when you cut through the chase, and again, that is my mistake, but it's actually it's less than $300, and I can get those to you. And the reason for the additional $300 a month over what we've been paying is simple. First, we're adding 4 more new copiers that we didn't have before. Before we were only paying for 18 new copiers in our last lease that we had in 18. So 4 new copiers, plus when you do a lease, of course, you dependent on interest, okay? And we all know, unfortunately, in 18, we had an interest rate of 2.75%. We're not gonna probably get we haven't firmed that yet, but we're not probably gonna get 2.75%. We're probably gonna get closer to 4%. And so that's gonna result in our overall increase of being about $300 more. But when you think about what we're getting with the additional new copiers, we're bringing the new business machine on, which is a high-tech machine, on for maintenance support. We also, 2 years ago, put in a license for paper cut, which has saved us a lot of money. And it also includes in every copier, in every building, the paper cut license, okay, is included in this lease. And the paper cut license saves us money because of this. Every staff member that ever prints now, Doreen, I don't know if we had this when you were still here or not, they have to scan their ID badge whenever they want to print something. Okay, they can print it from their computer, but until they go to the copier and scan, it doesn't print. Many times, okay, everyone has good intentions. I'm guilty of it. Mr. Earnhardt is probably guilty of it at times. We send something to the computer, we have every intention of going and getting it, and we forget. The phone rings, somebody comes in, we never go and get it. Before we had paper cut, we would send it to the printer, it would print. Well, now you send it to the printer from your desk, you still have to go scan your badge. Until you go scan your badge in front of the copier, it doesn't print. If you never go scan your badge, even though 4 hours later you send it from your printer, it never registers. At the end of a 12-hour period, it automatically erases. So, and I don't have the exact number, I did that last year we were not charged for thousands of individual copies because of, and again, no one's fault. It just, you know, they never took the final step. So but that license, which again is not cheap, is included in that. So I think again for the $300 a month, when you consider the increase in interest, what we're getting, the newer copiers, I still think it's quite a bargain. And we're still, Mr. Earnhardt and I are still debating also whether, and we're probably, again, our goal is, if this is approved, to have this in place by July 1. We're still monitoring the budget, which he will talk about a little bit more here in a few minutes, very closely. We're also still monitoring, even though we know what the cost for those new copiers will be, we're also kind of monitoring right now, do we want to go ahead and just maybe buy those outright and save the interest on that? But we won't really know that till we get closer to May, to the mid-May, when we'll kind of get our last couple state payments. We're also going to know in the next, what is it, Mr. Earnhardt, the next 2 or 3, we'll know whether how many students we're going to estimate ADA, and
That's
which,
right, next
you
month.
know, so we're kind of, so I mean, there's a lot of it, so a lot of leeway, but at the worst case scenario, with this approval, with the new copiers, paper cut license, the maintenance with the new business machine, will be less than $300 a month. And if we would decide, which right now the decision we will lease, if we would decide here in the next 4 to 6 weeks if we're going to buy them outright, we're going to save that interest, which then it's probably going to be a wash. But without muddy in the waters, we all know the supply chain. We all know where copiers are produced now. Okay, to get them here in time for August, we got to get them into the order queue by probably mid-May, if earlier, if without having any. Now we're not all of a sudden our existing copiers are not going to stop working, but again, I recommend that. That's on the consent agenda because it is a professional service. They've serviced since 2010 and have never, like I said, led us astray. In that's part of the consent agenda. And then you see the financial ledgers there. But like I said, later on, and then under communications and our reports, Mr. Earnhardt will be giving a more in-depth update on where we're at in our budget at this point in the fiscal year, heading into the final 2.5 months.
Okay. So with all that taken in, and then there was also the handbooks were in there also. So all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Communication and reports, a budget update.
Okay, as I said, Mr. Earnhardt this year has about every quarter kind of given a more detailed update. It's there every month for you to look at with the spreadsheet, but again, now that we're heading into the last 3 months, 2.5 months, our fiscal year runs July 1 through June 30th. He's gonna kind of give you a real lower 1,000-foot level as to how our budget is shaping up as we head into the end of the fiscal year on June 30th. Mr. Earnhardt.
Yep, so that document that you have attached, those numbers are through yesterday. I ran those numbers yesterday morning, put them in the spreadsheet for you. As you remember, about those first 8 lines on that spreadsheet, that's our original budget that was approved in June. That's there as a reference point. We'll spend the next couple minutes in that next section. So we'll start there in the second column in Fund 10. Revenues are in at 110%, which is good. Don't let that mislead you though. We did kind of alter our percentages of our state revenues a little bit, just because when they released all the ESSER money, I decided to change some allocations because I didn't know how we were going to spend that money. And so, as you guys probably are well aware, we cannot carry a balance in Fund 20. So I reallocated some of that money out of Fund 20 and into Fund 10, so that to ensure we didn't carry a budget or a balance in Fund 20. So right now in Fund 10, we are at 110%. Our expenditures are 86% in Fund 10. You see right there, I have the future expenditures projected at 1.4 million and change. That would be if we spent every dollar. On April 1st, we more or less told our principals that we're shutting our spending down in the buildings outside of emergency needs. What that allows us to do is to have a clearer picture of the money that we have left. So when we talk about buying copiers, big ticket items that we need, we'll know we'll have some money left in this year's budget that we can buy those, so that we don't have to buy those out of next year's budget. So that's where we are, Fund 1. Fund 20 is 100% teacher salary and benefits. We've taken in 69%, but again, that's going to be a lower number because I did shift some of those revenues into Fund 10. And we've spent about 65%, so we have left $7 million to spend budgeted out of Fund 20. We'll probably spend pretty close to that number, just because when you look at salaries, that counts salaries for all of June and July as well, as the remainder of May and the remainder of April. So that's going to be a bigger number, so that should come in fairly close. When we jump over to Fund 4, we brought in 106%. That is just an additional increase of money that wasn't originally budgeted, so that's a really good number. We've spent 95% there so far. The projected number that you see, $552,800, that's actually a $400,000 increase than what we originally budgeted, and that $400,000 is going to go towards these renovation projects. The one that was approved last month over at the elementary with the special ed classrooms, and then we've got another one later in the agenda to renovate, remodel some of the tech office areas. So that $400,000 is set to be spent in this budget year towards those projects. We don't necessarily have to spend it this year, but we've got it, so I think we probably ought to spend it while we have it. The only thing that's not accounted for in there would be the HVAC in the tech offices, because that's a little bit bigger of a piece of that project, and we're doing some electrical engineering and having some work done to try to get some bids on that, but we expect that to be a pretty heavy chunk of change. As we move down to transfers, there's another cell there that's in yellow, the 1.336 million. So that is right now what the state has allocated for us for our one-time transfer from Fund 1 to Fund 4. That would be a full transfer. That number's fluid. It can change, it can go up, and I'll elaborate on that in just a second, or it can go down. That will be just based on our goals with what we want to do with money in Fund 4 as far as further construction projects, renovations, things of that nature. So as I shared with you several months ago, I am trying to build a surplus there in Fund 40 just because we know at some point we're gonna have some renovation, some work to do because our enrollment's increasing and we're gonna need some additional classes. And so hopefully we can build more of that into the budget and not have to go out and take loans and do a lease purchase on that. So just a couple additional pieces for this budget. As Dr. Luttrell told you, next month I'll submit our estimated ADA. That could be up to an additional $300,000 in revenue for this year. Again, that money can go towards copiers, it can go towards renovation, it can go towards the HVAC system, which we're expecting to be kind of pricey in that tech office. So we can find uses for that. Our enrollment is actually up about 100 students this year. We're going to be pretty conservative in what we estimate, because if we estimate too much, then we would have to give money back. And I'm not in the habit of giving money back. I want to keep everything that we get. A couple other things that we have the potential to look at. So DESE, in addition to the 7% transfer from Fund 1 to Fund 4, they do allow a transportation transfer each month, which goes from Fund 1 to Fund 4. So our allocation there is $214,000. That's not a transfer that the district has ever taken advantage of. However, if we're with this mindset of let's build up Fund 4, we have the option of taking that transfer to put an additional $200,000 in Fund 4 if we would choose to. Another opportunity we have is, so when we look at the past 5 years of our Fund 1 to Fund 4 transfers, if we haven't captured the maximum transfer, the balance that's left over, we can take that 5-year balance and add it to a 1-year transfer. So in addition to that 1.336, we have the potential to add an additional 214 plus anything that's left in the balance of the last 5 years from the Fund 1 to Fund 4 transfer. Next month I will have a number of what that is. I didn't want to get ahead of myself and start working too far ahead, but those are some options we have, some opportunity we have to really capture some money into Fund 4 to help ourselves out in the long run.
And like I said, Mr. Earnhardt, I'm okay to say, but take the liberty to say that again, which it would behoove us to, if the conversations that Mr. Earnhardt and I have had with Finance Department at DESE, where they've said, yes, we will work with you to go back the last 5 years if you haven't transferred your full amount that you're required each year to move that over. I do think that would be a very wise decision to make if we feel we can do it without jeopardizing our Fund 1 2 balances, with that. Again, we'll keep you updated with that next month. We're going to know a whole lot more. Our ADA, as he said, is up right now, right at 90. Our enrollment is up right at 99 students. Our ADA is up around 70, 75. However, as we head into the spring is usually pretty strong ADA-wise because of testing and that. However, we also have to look out for we get into the last days, especially because we dismiss our seniors a few days prior to graduation, just because you have to calculate grades and everything. When you suddenly take 200 plus students out of 80, because we can't count them unless they're here technically, that automatically drops your ADA some. It's not going to drop it drastically, but you're going to lose potentially 5, 7, or 8 ADA. But again, we'll know much more next month. We'll be able to tell you what we're estimating. But again, I think that Mr. Earnhardt, it's very safe to say you're very pleased where we are
Very much so.
financially.
Yeah, when you look at overall percentages, we've received about 88% of our total revenues that were projected, and we've only spent 75%. And that's 75% through 10 or 12 months. So we're in a really good spot right now.
So stay tuned for next month.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Next, Superintendent's report.
Okay, I don't have a real long report. I'm going to talk about, again, I may have to have some help from others at this point, but again, the retiree banquet that we have every year with staff recognition is going to be held Sunday, May the 1st. I think I've mentioned to you in some other correspondences, it'll be this year we're going to venture out to Tetros. I think we're going to have a little bit different format this year. If Anybody, would you like to comment on that, Dr. Roos?
Yes, Mr. Earnhardt and I both have been working on that along with Ms. Stanley. We're going to do the plaques for the years of service in the buildings. The last week of school, every building's going to have their little reception, I guess, for each of their buildings. And then the dinner actually is for the retirees at Tatros and their families. So they've all been invited. I believe they've confirmed with Mr. Earnhardt to attend on May 1st. So,
Yeah. And what time is that?
6 o'clock.
And then, as I said, also the, which was, we'll talk more next month, but right now, pending any major unforeseen circumstance, the last day, the last student attendance day is set for Thursday, May the 26th, which would be an early release date. A couple days prior to that, graduation for the class of 2022 is set for Tuesday, the 24th of May at 7 p.m. at Tiger Stadium. If there is inclement weather, the ceremony would be moved to Wednesday evening, the 25th, and at 7 p.m. at Tiger Stadium. If there was inclement weather on that evening, the event would be moved to that evening at Jefferson College. But like I said, I'm confident that that will not occur, that we will be able to have it outside at Tiger Stadium. Our COVID numbers, like I said, hopefully, as we've said the last couple months, without jinxing it, hopefully it is in the rearview mirror. We continue to monitor that. Our health staff has done awesome the past, again, 24 plus months with that. But I know currently, of course, a lot of factors go into that, but right now, most, every district, not just us, is reporting virtually zero cases of positive kids with COVID or staff, or other than very, very low numbers. And our attendance, like I said, has been pretty strong. So that's my superintendent's report.
Thank you, sir. Moving on, prior new business, approving a bid for interior doors at the Roy D. Burdenside Administrative Building.
Okay, as you know, we've kind of gone back and forth on this for a variety of reasons. Initially, we had replaced the exterior doors here in this building, and the exterior doors, like I said, this is the last building that has had their doors replaced, interior and exterior. The exterior doors were replaced within the last few weeks. It looks really, I think really was a much needed. The hardware that we had in the old doors was really faulty. They were rusting. And then we had also, at the same time when we went out for bid for the exterior doors, had gotten a cost to replace the interior doors, and go with an oak face door, which is with the new hardware similar to what we have at each of our school attendance centers that we have all replaced within the last 5 to 6 years, which have the security hardware and so forth. They also, if you notice, our doors here that we have in our offices in this building, unlike the school attendance centers, there's no window in an actual office. That is not the best case for liability in that you kind of always want to have some form of a small window that is transparent. So we asked vendors to bid replacement of approximately, there's basically 11 single interior doors in this office. There's 2 sets of double doors in this office, along with in the offices, the 3 main offices that would have a small rectangular shaped narrow window like we do in many of the classroom doors in the attendance centers. And so we had two vendors that submitted a bid. If you remember, initially I had said I did not think, after I had consulted with some individuals, that we didn't need to do that. And since that time, I think there's been discussion that has occurred that would be in the best interest because of the fact that this building, like I said, could replace the intermediate school doors. That is our newest building. This building was built at the same time. We didn't have near the quality of doors in this building that we have at the other site, so I think this will definitely bring those up to speed. With that, and the low bid on those doors was in the amount of $30,712 from Ron's Doors and Windows, which has been the vendor that's replaced all of our other doors throughout the district over the course of many years. We did have another vendor from Cardinal Door based in Benton. Their bid was to do the same project, was $34,800, and I would recommend that you approve. And again, this would be done this summer as soon as the order gets in. Because of course these doors have to be, manufactured for our specifications. In the amount, the low bid in the amount of $30,712 from Ron's Doors and Windows to replace all interior doors at this district office per bid specifications. And again, I apologize for any prior miscommunication that might have been sent out on that, but I think that we're all in agreement that this is the best thing to do. And like I said, there is money. Like I said, and now's the time. We can definitely check doors for the most part off our list.
Would you like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Ron's Doors and Windows to replace the doors here at Central Office, $30,712. I do have one question. Is it going to be security? Like this, like the others are great in the security. Is this going to be a security setup here?
Can you elaborate?
Yeah, like
I think she
keys
means
and
like
stuff.
keyless
Like
access.
keyless access, like you walk in and Lynn looks and says, "Oh, no, I know you." No, it's just going to be.
I mean,
I was just curious.
No, that's a great question.
I don't know, I've not been a part of those conversations with the doors to know if that was part
Well,
of
it
it.
doesn't make it unapproved, or I was just curious.
No, the easy answer to that is that the exterior doors that most of our keyless access is on an exterior door.
Right.
And we do have for this building a keyless access that is ready to be on the door that comes in off the west entrance, the side door.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. However, we haven't got that installed yet, but we do plan on having keyless access on that for our staff to come and go. We have not, the decision was made, and it can be added at any time, but on the exterior doors, we did not put, and again, we did not put any keyless access on the main exterior door simply because we just felt, again, everyone's important, yes,
I know.
but we just felt, we didn't want to just, the first time people come to we get a lot of traffic in and out from the general public. I mean, typically, it's, they're not gonna come right here because they're wanting to get a kid or whatever. I mean, and it was just felt that we could save that expense, but it is something that can be added, and if that's something that you all would like to have added. But for the interior doors, at this point, there's no keyless, but the interior doors would have, Director Baraskowski, they would have, as the other doors, they've got the security hardware on there to where you can lock the door from the inside at any point in time, to where if the door is shut, you can't get in. Nobody from the outside can get in. So if we did have an intruder, Mr. Earnhardt could suddenly close his door if it was locked from the inside and be in danger, or the others could come in there. Now again, that's not going to help anyone that's in the open, in the outer office area, and but that would constitute. We could put that on in the exterior door, but right now that's not part of what.
Right.
But we could.
I was just curious.
We have a motion from Ms. Beresowski. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fadler? Anybody have any other questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the storage building bid.
Okay. The storage building bid here is essentially, if you remember over the past few months, we have had remember we had put this out for bid back in February or January in the paper with some other projects to have solicit vendors to submit for a storage building to be placed out at our new ball field complex so that we could store, among other things, baseball and softball equipment, one of our vacuum sweepers that we use to drag the field and that of debris and leaves and that, as well as, we also bought an extensive portable fencing unit that right now is out in the elements, so whenever softball's not in place, we can store that outside the elements. And you can never have enough storage. This is a building that would basically be 60 by 20, it'd be about 1,200 square foot total. It's a combination of a metal, steel, and wood building. Because of a lot of the costs right now with steel, there would be wood beams in it, there would be some wood studs support, but the building itself would be supported metal, and that it would have a big garage door on it. I think the dimensions are were in the bid specs. The fact here is, like I said, we finally were able to have a vendor that come in and give us a bid on it. Now, again, I'm gonna try to be clear. If Dr. Roos wants to feel free to jump in, but when we bid this, the vendor, like I said, the vendor that finally came in, so you all know there's a lot of work out there right now, and they weren't clear whether we wanted to do it this summer or whether we wanted to wait till the fall. And so they submitted the bid initially saying that it would be done in the fall. Now, if you remember last month in March, we also approved the same vendor, Brockmiller Construction. They were the low bid to do some work at our high school with renovating the cabinet and the fax space at the high school, as well as some elementary office space in the counselor suite area. And so they came in and said, we don't know if you want this done in the summer or the fall, but if you want it done in the fall, this is the price. And they gave the price there for the storage building of $179,000. And they said, and that's only good though if you want it done, basically, so we can start work this summer, so that we can save money and not have to worry about having a separate site supervisor in the fall, because they'll already have a site supervisor here every day for the high school and the elementary work, so they could save money. So that price of $179,000 would be if we wait to the fall, but if you approve it and we want it done this summer when you make the motion, the cost would be only $175,000. We would save $4,000 on that project. And then when we get, but I'm going to preface you with, also the next item you're going to look at is the renovation of the IT offices, which Dr. Roos and Mr. Earnhardt can tell you more about, that, which we talked about earlier, which is needed, and that is the fact that, same way there, they didn't know if we wanted it done in the fall, it's one price. If we want to go ahead and approve it for this summer, which we do, it's also a lower cost because of the fact that they'll have an on-site supervisor, here, a foreman for that, and we would save money, which we'll talk about that in a minute. But between the two projects, you would save, if you approve both of them, you would save $11,000 over the cost of what they quoted as their, because they quoted it two different ways. Because again, there's just a lot of work right now. But on this one, so you have to make the motion and decide whether you want Brockmiller to do it in the amount of $179,000, which would be started in the fall, or $175,000 started as soon as they can in the summer once we get out of school and have it ready hopefully by late August.
Is there an up advantage to doing it in the fall? I mean, obviously there's an advantage to doing it in the summer, but is there
The cost.
That's,
The cost.
That would be a disadvantage to do it in the fall though, because it'd be more.
yeah.
Exactly.
So there's no real, there's no something else is gonna happen that it should be done in the fall. so.
The only, correct, and the only thing which they won't guarantee, yeah, I mean, the price, the $179 would be guaranteed if you wait till the fall to do it.
Right,
So you don't have to worry about that price going way, way up,
right.
but if you wanted, you will save a little bit.
Well, 4,000 is a good savings.
And you would be guaranteed that, because softball is a pretty short season,
Right,
it's usually done by mid to late October, so you would have it for sure done more than
Right.
likely, hopefully by then, and then you can put all your storage and stuff in it. Oh, the other key thing I want to point out that I didn't mention was the well house that we have down there now, that's where the electrical on the outside of the building is stored that services the new ball field with the lights. This would also relocate all of that electrical boxes, that price is relocating all the electrical boxes and bringing them from that well house inside, instead of being on the exterior, inside the new storage building. Okay, which again is a definite, which I feel is a definite advantage to being on the outside. And as you know that, and also with approval here, this storage building would in essence eliminate the building, the well house building you see. We would still have the well. We're not gonna get rid of the well. You would still have water access if you needed it out there, you know. But as far as the building, for electrical purposes and that would all be brought in, and that pricing for that is included in the price of the storage facility.
Anybody else have any questions?
They guaranteeing it'll only take 3 months, or could it more than likely? More than likely, it's really getting kind of old. I mean, is it gonna be done in 3 months, or do they have a guarantee or not?
I don't know.
Okay.
The answer,
The answer depends on the supply chain.
That's what's been here for 3
I would
years.
think, I mean, if we get them going on it by the end of the week, I think they could start, because they're gonna have to order. I would think it would be close, you know, by late August, which you gotta have April, that's,
It wouldn't,
even
shouldn't
by the end
take-
of April, we're 4 months to late August. So I mean, I would be optimistic. Again, the pandemic's
20 by
broke.
60, it's not like that.
So just sit between the ball field and the wood? They can't or to the back of the ball field?
You know where the well house is, right out here now?
That's where the well house is. Oh, right behind here?
Yeah,
You're talking about putting it here?
well, but it's still way out, it's still closer to
At the end of the
ball.
practice field?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
don't have
that's
anything
right.
to do
It will
with
not interfere at all. I do
So the
know,
new construction?
it definitely will not interfere with any we already asked the architect. It will not interfere at all with any footprint of
Wellness center.
the wellness center that we're currently designing now, that is supposed to be bid out sometime in June or July.
Anybody like to make a motion to approve the storage shed?
I'll make a motion to approve the storage shed to be put up in this summer for $175,000 for Brock Miller construction.
A motion from Ms. Beresowski,
I'll second it.
second from Mr. Wolf. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the renovation of the existing technology work area.
Okay, I guess. This bid here is for the renovation of office space down in the IT area over where the old concession stand used to be, the old district office used to be years ago. We have a need because we have, again, expanded enrollment at the elementary. Our food service offices are located right now up near the upper cafeteria near Sunshine. We need those for some classroom space. So this is after discussion with the personnel impacted, I believe.
Yes, we've talked to all of them.
And so anyway, they're in agreement, we're gonna locate them, put some offices down where our tech office is now, down within that old area, we'll put some offices, and I did put in there, I think if you, whenever you click on the actual agenda item there that shows that there should be the renovation sketch. It shows kind of approximately how that's gonna be laid out. Now, we still have to get formal engineering drawings for that, which we don't anticipate to be a problem. All individuals impacted, the food service, the technology individuals, have all been made aware of this. They're all in agreement that this will work for now. It's not going to be ideal, especially for food service, but I think that down the road, as we get in where we have to maybe expand some of our building capacity, there may be a need to maybe put those offices for food service somewhere else. But in the meantime, we also know that you can always use office space. I mean, there's never too much of that. So again, we reached out. It only made sense. Brock Miller, looked at this project and said, hey, we can come in and do this project because we know we need it done this summer. We can do, if you want it done this summer, we can do it for one amount, which was, they have listed as $67,000, which would include all the work, except for any HVAC work, which our crew would take care of, which again is just relocating a couple of ventilation systems to make sure that, some of the individual offices we don't really have to get a new unit or anything in that area. But what we can do from that is, they also then said, but again, it's like the storage building, but we also know there's a lot of work, and if you would rather wait till the fall, which we know we need it done now, if we want to wait and have them begin in the fall after all their summer work, the price again would go up from 67 to 74 again, just like before, because they would have to have they can coordinate their on-site construction project supervisor would then oversee all the projects that are going on at the same time as opposed to waiting until.
And plus it'll be done when the kids aren't there. Kids will be there in the fall. So this is.
Just, I guess, because of the scope of all the other work going on is the only reason we got one bid, we could only get one bid from Brock Miller.
Correct. I mean, it's just,
Nobody has time.
It's going to be a very busy, what did you call them?
it's gonna be a lot going on.
Yeah. Site manager. It's going to be a pretty busy site manager.
Does anybody else have any questions about that? No, I'll entertain
I
a
got a
motion.
hypothetical one, but there's no sense even asking it.
Go ahead.
Is it gonna be done in time?
All right, if this gets drug out in the fall, are they gonna come back and say, well, you didn't get done in the summer, it's gonna cost you 74 now instead of 67?
I don't think that, my
Like I
answer.
said, I know we can't answer that
my
question.
answer
but
would be no. There's enough
But I
other variables.
guarantee in the fall, my answer is gonna be no if they come back
I
and
really,
say, you
I
guys
don't,
don't.
I do not, I do not foresee that with Robert, I really do not. I really
Okay,
do not foresee that. I mean, all in all, outside of, now, if there would be a need to change the scope of work, or whatever, I mean, it might be, but for the most part, again, Brock Miller's, they, for the most part, at the end of the day, have delivered on their, they've never come back and said, well, I know we bid this, but now we need this. I mean, they've never done that, and I really don't have reason to believe they would do that now.
I would also think, since we had it started while they were on site,
Right.
wouldn't think they would try to add extra time onto the end if it was something that ran a little long.
Well, by contract, they couldn't do
Yeah.
it unless we requested something different.
Yep.
Because once that contract's signed, that's the amount.
I don't even know why they give you 2 bids, they're here
I
every
mean,
day. It's not like you never see them.
No, but I think there's just, again, it's a crazy time. I mean, there's just a lot of, I kind of look at it as the fact that, again, they were trying, I think they kind of hoped that we would wait, but I thought they would have, if they really wanted us to wait, they may have flip-flopped it, like, well, if you want us to do something, you're gonna pay premium for the summer, as opposed, but it makes sense, to me, it makes sense. that, you know. the
It only
fact-
makes sense for us to save money, yeah.
Yeah.
If
We're gonna
that's-
do it anyway, and we can save money by doing it in the summer instead of the fall, it's gonna, to me, it's a wash, it's better off to do it in the summer.
Got one question. Is there a plan for the painting and the HVAC work?
For the what?
For the painting and the HVAC work where it says
That-
to be by owner?
That would be, well, the plant, our personnel, we have an HVAC, couple HVAC person, at least one fully certified HVAC person that does a lot of our HVAC work. And then we have a paint crew that we have in the summer a lot of them are individuals that come on board that just want to earn some extra money that aren't working during the summer because they work 9 months during the school year. And they're a very solid paint crew. The plan is to have them come in. Now we would buy the paint, you know, there's gonna be some, probably several $100s, and you're paying, but it's gonna be minimal compared to if we were gonna have to
Bid it out.
go out and pay them.
Right.
So, yeah, does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
I just don't know why they can't work off of these plans you have in here, though.
But,
I don't know why they can't work off of these plans you have in here. To me, we can save some money on that. So somebody like to, so Brent, did you make that motion?
I don't
With
think
your
I made it.
Did you not? Somebody like to make a motion to approve this?
I'll make that a motion. I gotta get to it and read it though.
Recommendation for approval of bid from Brockmiller Construction, the amount of $67,000 to complete during the summer renovation for existing technological department work area.
That's exactly what I was getting ready to say.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Brazowski, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, desktop purchase computers. Mr. Baumann?
last month, we did have a approved order for 300 some Chromebooks. Since that time, whenever we contacted the vendor said, oh, that model is no longer, I can't say that model anymore, it's discontinued. So again, Mr. Baumann contacted one of the other vendors that had bid, and basically we got a price for it's about a wash, but this price is just simply, and we just more information, anything, it's basically purchasing, again, the same quantity, 330. This would be Samsung 4 Chromebooks from the vendor Arch Angel tablets in the amount of $68,960 and 10 cents. They have the quantity already that will have no problem of it to get to us, and once if it's approved, they would be ready to ship. And like I said, and the cost is basically a wash, if not a little bit cheaper, right, Josh?
Yes, on the Chromebook.
So,
Yes.
in other words, it's really to our advantage, so that's all that one is.
What about the desktop purchase?
Yeah, the desktop one, we're gonna replace 228 desktop computers. The low bid on that was from RTI, so in the amount of $630 a piece. So my recommendation for the desktops is to purchase 228 HP 600 G6 desktops from RTI for the amount of $143,640.
And this is a new,
These are replacements, yes, this is a new.
this was not last month.
Correct, correct.
And you guys would be installing all of those?
Oh, yeah, we'll image them and install them. The goal would be over summer, but again, we've been told they don't know when they're coming, so if they don't come until the school year, that's something that we'll do as we can. We'll work out a decent time to do it with the faculty, copy the files over, the same process we've always done. It's nothing out of the ordinary for us.
Okay, so first up then would be the approval of the desktop purchases. Does anybody have any other questions for Mr. Baumann on the desktops?
One, how are the specs on those? Are they pretty solid?
Yeah,
They'll last
so-
for several years?
What precipitated this is the Windows 11 requirement that's coming in a year and a half. So we had to do something, and the next 2 years we'll have other big purchases, so I wanted to get this purchase in now while we had some room in the budget, because I spend too much money, apparently. So, as Mr. Earnhardt is finding out, yes.
Every day it's, hey, by the way, I forgot about this.
So that's why I wanted to do this now. They're 10th gen processors, 8 gig RAM, NVMe drives. So the ones that we have now have lasted us 5 years and we have less specs. So I have no expectation it wouldn't last as long or longer.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion for the desktop purchase.
$143,640.
No motion?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Wolf. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. And then next will be the adjustment to the Chromebooks
Yep.
that Dr. Luttrell spoke about.
Yeah, so again, and like I said, he said it's a wash and not a little bit cheaper, so again, the recommendation there, on that.
Is it as good a quality of Chromebook? or-
Yeah, it's actually, they're a little bit better. They have a little bit more internal storage than what we were gonna get from the Dells. It's just an unfortunate situation. Dell pulled the rug out, so it is what it is.
So, would like to make a motion to approve the adjustment to that bid?
I will make a motion to purchase 330 Samsung 4 Chromebooks from Archangel Tablets for $68,960.10.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Abrams. Anybody else have any questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Last thing on prior and new business is approved filter contract
Yeah,
recommendation.
and this is just, again, this, we have a filter to make sure that, students don't go where they don't need to go. And we've had a contract currently, like most districts are required to have, for several years, since last 40, since 18, that we've been trying also to get ready for our renewal, and so, we've been trying out some different ones, and, several different ones, and the one that, we're recommending that we go with starting this next year with our classroom management is line-wise, and it's also, like I said, also worth pointing out in addition to filtering, it has a self-harm monitoring tool that has expanded capabilities that include more than just email and Google search readings just on students to see if there's, in danger that they can notify. And then, like I said, that overall contract amount was actually the low bid on that, and it was 60. No, not that. That wasn't 68. It was.
18,544.
Yeah, it was $18,554 to approve in 1 year. That's for 1 year. With the contract with the vendor Line Wires to serve as our filter, which again, it is a very worthwhile service, and again, it is necessary. It is the low bid, and it is felt the one that we felt was best.
Who does that self-harm notification take place to?
So, the counselors and building administration.
So whatever
I
student
don't
that-
want it coming to my office. It goes straight to the building administration.
So whatever grade level that student sign on goes to, it goes to that principal and counselor then?
Yep. Yep.
Wonderful. I like how the favorite of everybody's was also the cheapest.
It's nice that it worked out that way, yes.
Yes. Doesn't always work out that
No,
way,
it
does
does
it?
not.
Anybody have any questions for Dr. Luttrell or Mr. Baumann on the filter contract? If not, somebody like to make a motion to approve that contract?
I'll make a motion to approve a 1-year contract with Linewise?
Line-wise.
Linewise for $18,554.
Motion by Mr. Berezowski. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Fadler. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Does anybody have anything else for open session? If not, I'll entertain a motion with roll call vote to enter into executive closed session with a closed record and closed vote pursuant to RSMO 610-021, sections 3 and 13.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Stanley, would you pull the board?
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Fadler?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Wendell?
Yes.
Mr. Abrams?
Yes.
Mr. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. Beresowski?